Hello, Virgo, and welcome to your reading. This is Bright Soul Collective Tarot. My name is Laura, and these will be your intuitive insights and advice for the month of June 2022. So this reading will be for Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising. So by all means, if you're into astrology, you know your Sun, Moon, and Rising sign, feel free to watch or listen to any and all of the readings that may apply, as each one of them may resonate for you differently. And then, as always, do keep in mind these readings are meant to be general in nature. They're meant to be applicable to a wider collective of individuals. So not all of the details that come through will make sense for you specifically. That's why I highly recommend you take anything and everything that does resonate, however that makes sense for your specific situation. So whatever that activates in you, whatever it triggers or makes you think of, keep an open mind to anything that might be helpful, and then you can simply leave the rest. So Virgo, here we are in June. Super excited to pull some cards and to see what kind of energy you might be contending with this month. I can't believe it's June already. That is absolutely wild to me. That means I've already been reading cards for you guys for 6 months. So it's been half a year of this little adventure. So I just want to say, whether this is your first time here or you're returning, thank you so much for sharing this time and space with me. I really appreciate it. This is something I really enjoy being able to do. And I'm looking forward to continuing to post readings for you as the months progress. But yeah, I'm very excited to take a look at June and hopefully get you some messages that have you feeling empowered to make the very most of the month ahead. So I've got your oracle cards here. Of course, we'll pull some tarot. And then as usual, I will start off by sharing the general impression that I got of your energy and the channeled messages that I sat down to connect with before getting any of your cards out. So yeah, and also don't mind my janky fingernails. I painted my nails a while back and I've really been trying to get these readings out. I feel like I'm always busy. I'm always say that I'm busy, but usually I would touch them up, but repainting my nails is absolutely the last thing on my list of priorities right now. So we'll just deal with them as they are. So yeah, let's get into your energetic impression. And I'm gonna preface this by saying it's a lot. The energy, not in a bad way, the energy is kind of hyperactive almost, I would say, not, yeah, but not in a bad way. It was very upbeat. So I like it. This is my last reading, so sorry we're a little late posting, but yeah, absolutely awesome note to land on because it's very, very what's the word that I'm looking for? Fast moving, kind of productive feeling energy. So yeah, the general vibe that I got is it's kind of like a mile a minute. And everything is going a mile a minute. Everything's fast paced, everything's busy. So it could be constantly moving, going from one place to another, moving from one task to another, having a lot of tasks to check off of your list. I might be having a lot of work events, social events, everything in general, talking a mile a minute, thinking a mile a minute, just having a lot going on in all senses. And then along with that, kind of hyperactive, very busy, constant on the move energy, I also kind of got like one track mind, being very much focused on whatever it is. So I got the sense that there's not a lot of rest, there's not a lot of thinking, time to sit back and process thoughts. It's just lots of action. There's lots of stuff going on around you, lots of stuff going on with you, and so it's not necessarily a thinking energy, it's more of a doing energy, which I kind of like for you. And the other thing is that could relate to being in survival mode, and it's you just got a lot on your plate and you just kind of have to buckle down and get it all done. Or it could be this mile a minute energy could just have you acting on instinct and kind of getting into the flow of things. So not necessarily a sustainable energy to be in for a long period of time, but perhaps this is a very busy season for you, maybe in terms of work or personal life. And so it's just kind of relying on your instincts and your ability to just tap into that last reserve of energy and just kind of keep things flowing, and manage, the effects that come as a result of being so busy all the time. So yeah, but I like it. Like your energy's kind of had me buzzing a little bit. So I'm gonna try to keep things calm, and I'm going to do my best to stay focused and not to get like totally unhinged, but we may end up going in that direction. So for your channel messages, Virgo, the first one that came through was forging a new path. So like, I really like that in terms of like, maybe you've set your sights on a new goal. Maybe you're stepping out in a new direction. Maybe you are like, in terms of your personal development, there are certain strengths that you're trying to cultivate or work on, but I really like it. So it's like kind of a departure from maybe what you were doing before or how you've done things before. Stepping out on a new path and recognizing that there's going to be a certain amount of work required to navigate and clear that path for yourself, but also feeling very capable in doing it, because the image that I had in my head when that message came through of forging a new path, it's like, it gave me the idea of like literally being in the middle, like bushwhacking in the middle of a forest, like with a machete, and just having to like manually like forge through and clear your own path. And so, yeah, so it's like something new, something unique maybe to you, or perhaps a new approach on something that you're already kind of engaged with. But it was kind of like this fearless, forward moving energy. And like kind of like a passionate type of fearless. So that's not to say that you don't have any fears or doubts about whatever this might be, but it's recognizing that fear and doubt and even insecurity, it's kind of like a normal part of the process. We're going to contend with those energies no matter what we're doing. And so it's kind of like acknowledging that, yeah, maybe those things aren't super fun, but not being willing to allow that to take a firm enough hold of you that you lose your drive to move forward, or you're discouraged from continuing to forge this path for yourself. So I really like that. The next message that came through was overwhelming urge to cry. So that may be something that you're feeling, perhaps particularly sensitive this month. Maybe there are certain things that are coming to the surface for healing, perhaps things that have been suppressed for some time or that you weren't aware of, and then maybe someone or something says something and it just kind of triggers you and brings that into your awareness. So you might be contending with those emotions, and that wouldn't necessarily surprise me, since Gemini season is going to be finishing and we're going to be moving into Cancer season this June, which has a lot to do with our emotions, how we relate to the world through our emotions, and particularly our subconscious. And that could manifest in terms of your relationships, family, home life, your sense of stability and security, and so on. And so I would just say, like, be aware of any blocked emotions, any difficulty that you have in terms of like sadness or crying. And it doesn't have to be sad crying. It can be like frustrated, overwhelmed. It can be happy, joyous, celebratory tears. But I would just pay attention, like any hesitance or resistance that you have to crying specifically, or expressing emotions, allowing emotion to flow through you. I think that, like, you know, sometimes a good cry is just really cathartic to help that energy move through. And if we're not allowing those feelings to flow through, then we are holding on to them and suppressing them. And we're not necessarily allowing ourselves to move on from whatever has triggered those emotions. And then we just kind of like try to deal with more and more life stuff piling up on top of those suppressed emotions. So yeah, I would say like this month, anything that kind of hits a nerve or has you kind of feeling the need to cry, I would just say, you know, just embrace it, embrace the opportunity to let emotions flow. Try not to judge yourself, and give yourself the opportunity to just release some of that stuff, right? Even if it's not anything serious. Like sometimes, okay, even if you're at work, sometimes if something happens or things are going on in your personal life, sometimes you just like need to go into the bathroom or go into a closet, give yourself a few minutes to cry, and then like boss back up, right? Like it happens to the best of us. This is like human life. And so your next message that came through was everyone is laughing at me, or everyone will laugh at me. And what came along, like the kind of vision that came along with that is it's like, you know, those typical dreams where it's like, oh, you show up and like you're naked or whatever. So it's like, it's kind of like that fear of humiliation, fear of being embarrassed, fear of being rejected by a specific individual or a group of people, fear of like maybe having your vulnerabilities outed and not only people knowing what those are, but using them against you or making you feel worse. So I would just be aware of anything that you're experiencing that's related to a fear of judgment, or a fear of rejection or being humiliated, and recognizing that, like, you know, inevitably we're going to have uncomfortable experiences in life. We obviously don't want to be associating with people that are capitalizing on those fears or creating those kinds of fears, because we want to be engaging with people that are going to be loving and supportive and acknowledge that even so there will still be moments of discomfort. But I would say, like, it's important for you to be true to yourself nonetheless, even if that requires you to be vulnerable, even if you're taking a risk of being rejected or feeling humiliated. You know, it's not your job to navigate life in such a way that you avoid discomfort and challenging situations, because they're going to come no matter what. It's just reminding yourself that you have the strength to deal with whatever comes your way, whether it's ideal or not. And the most important thing that you can do is just continue investing in yourself, expressing yourself authentically, and knowing that that is going to connect you with the right people, even if you do have some of those hurtful experiences. This could also be manifesting in relationships in terms of like trust issues or being able to be emotionally available, letting your walls down, because it might be like previous experiences that have not worked out so well. So it's making sure you're giving yourself a chance and you're giving the people who deserve a chance around you the opportunity to connect and to have those more vulnerable moments. And perhaps by doing more of that, you'll see that either you're in a safe environment where you can kind of start to process and let go of those more challenging experiences, or you're surrounded by people that are perpetuating stories from your past that maybe you're ready to move on from. So either way, there's the opportunity for you to get more into alignment with what works for you. The next message that came through was just edibles, like straight up edibles. So like cannabis, like weed gummies, chocolate, whatever, anything that's infused with like THC, CBD, that kind of stuff. So like I'm in Canada, it's legal here. Not necessarily trying to normalize or encourage drug use. Everybody has to be their own person and make their own decisions. And depending on where you are, like it may be illegal, but it just came through. So I don't know, maybe you have some kind of connection to it. Maybe that's something you do to unwind. Maybe that's going to be a theme for you this month. I'm going to leave that one up to you. Don't think there's a lot of room for interpretation there. The next message that came through was margin for error. And it wasn't like a predetermined margin for error, like having a very narrow or a wide margin for error. It was just the concept of having a margin for error. And so the thing that came to mind immediately was, if you have perfectionistic tendencies, and you tend to really put a lot of pressure on yourself to deliver perfect results like all of the time, I would say that like it's probably important for you to start connecting more with the idea of having a margin for error, and that, you know, inevitably everything that we do is not going to be perfect all the time, and that's okay. And it's kind of like finding that sweet spot that you can work within, where you are being realistic enough that you're giving yourself enough grace to be human and not be perfect, but also not like compromising the quality of your work or whatever it is you have to offer. Because like, you know, in all reality, we can't, like if you set really unrealistically high standards for yourself and you hold yourself to those standards, that's a lot of stress and pressure. And it's also kind of like setting yourself up for failure and disappointment, because we're not always going to be able to over deliver and to achieve perfection like 110% of the time, right? So it's kind of like, and that's not what people expect of us either, right? It's kind of like we have to know what our priorities are. We have to know like what's most important to to kind of deliver on. And we have to, we have to acknowledge that sometimes we have off days, sometimes things go unnoticed, or we make mistakes, and that's a part of the process. So not to beat up on yourself, but there may be power or empowerment to be found for you to give yourself a little bit more space or grace by figuring out what the margin for error is. And recognizing that it's kind of like a sliding scale. So you've got an area that you can work within, and you don't have to be like on the mark every time, right? So it's making sure that your ideas about work and your performance and your accuracy or quality of work or whatever, that you are being realistic and setting yourself up for success, because even if you're not perfect all the time, you could be doing a better job than most people. But if all you see is that lack of perfection, you're going to be selling yourself short and seeing yourself through this like negative, imperfect lens, rather than accepting that imperfection is kind of in our nature and being able to celebrate all that you are accomplishing. So and then finally, your last message that came through was by the grace of God. And so I'm not a religious person. You may connect to that in a religious way, or perhaps whatever ideas or connection you have to like the idea of God. I'm going to say, like, I'm going to take the religious context out of it. It has nothing to do with that specifically. For me, it's more, it was more of a marker for that general concept. So the idea of receiving support, or connecting with a stroke of luck that may have been divinely guided or connected to spirit or your ancestors. So the idea that kind of like thanking your lucky stars, like whatever it is that you're doing is like encouraged or supported or directed by your idea of spirit, God, ancestors. There being some kind of divine or energetic or less tangible support system that is like helping you to connect with the right opportunities, and being grateful for that support, right? So it's kind of like, oh, well, if you came upon like a really fruitful opportunity by chance, then it's like feeling really lucky for whatever kind of brought you there, even if you don't know or have a framework to define that, which, let's be honest, nobody does, because we don't know. Recognizing the opportunities that you're being gifted with, the support, the guidance. So however you may connect to that, that might be something that's highlighted for you this month or encouraging for you to connect with. And we'll get into your oracle cards. So your first is Pillar of Light. So it says your vibration is rising. You are the oracle. I don't know if you can see, but I've got like hand jitters. And then your next oracle message is you got the love. It says Hadarian energy, codependency, boundaries. So this is actually the first time I've had this deck for a while. And I don't go through all the cards in the deck when I first get it, because I kind of like to experience them organically as they come up. So this is the first time this card has come out for me personally or in any reading. So I thought that was really interesting. So that's definitely something different. So this is a very specific message to you this month, Virgo. So we'll start with Pillar of Light. Your vibration is rising. You are the oracle. So I would say like this month, anything that you do in terms of your self-care, your personal development, your investment in yourself, even just like connecting with your belief in yourself, belief in your skills, the acknowledgement that when you are in alignment with what you feel your purpose is, or what kind of lights you up, that just increases your ability to kind of light up the world around you. The more that you lean into and experience your gifts for the sake of doing it, the more you inevitably impact your environment. So it's recognizing that whatever it is that lights you up, whatever it is that you do, whatever your gift is, it doesn't have to be a career, but it very well can be. It's just the ways that you take action in the world that are, inspired, connected to your passions, something maybe creative in nature. It's like that is that creativity, that passion, those like hobbies, jobs, whatever we have that allows us to like connect with, act upon, and create or bring something into the physical world, whatever shape that takes, whether it is art, whether it's work, whether it's like healing work, words, just sharing any kind of like loving energy with other people. It's recognizing that that is an expression of the divine through us. So it's like we are connecting to that energy. We're allowing it to flow through us. We're allowing it to inspire us. And then we are sharing that with the world in our own unique way. And so not only does doing that connect us with more of our own light and bring us further into our own energy, and like helps us to love and accept ourselves more wholly and completely, but it sets an example for others around us to start doing the same. And the other people around us inevitably are kind of lit up by us doing that, right? So it's like, even if it just brings you into a level of like increased kindness and compassion, your actions, your words are going to impact people more deeply, and it's going to connect them with that energy and spark that within them. Hopefully, that's the hope, right? Is to be a beacon of light here on earth in the physical sense. And it's recognizing that like that is going to be expressed differently for each and every individual. It's very unique to you, but it's like you're the only one that knows what that looks like and feels like for you. There's no handbook, there's no right or wrong way to do it. There's nothing outside of you, right? And that's actually the big theme right now, is like, it's not necessarily that there's anything outside of you that you need to connect with or that needs to give you anything. It's recognizing that that wisdom is within, that power is within, and it's just about taking time to connect to that source within you, right? And so it's the idea is like our hearts, living a heart-centered life, following your heart, following the callings of your soul. It has everything to do with what is going to be most beneficial for your soul's growth and development, to help you connect more with that high vibrational energy and to experience that, but also to spread that for others to experience as well. And it's recognizing that like your heart is almost like a portal for this divine energy from wherever you want, like the universe, God, however you want to define it, right? Like that's how we connect to that energy, and we allow ourselves to be inspired and take action, and we impact others. So it's kind of like being a channel for that loving energy to be brought down and spread in a tangible way. And recognizing that, yeah, you are a point of connection. You are the oracle, and whatever it is that occurs most naturally to you in terms of your passion, your creativity, your enthusiasm, whatever your outlets are, it's about embracing that or getting to know what that is if you don't know what it is. Or perhaps if it's something that you don't necessarily connect with, maybe reprioritizing it, getting back into touch with that. Because it's recognizing that not only does it have the opportunity to be beneficial for you and your growth, but also for others. And that you don't have to look to anyone or anything outside of yourself for that energy, for that validation. It really has everything to do with you being able to trust yourself to connect with that energy, to receive that wisdom, and to take loving action. And that is going to be a unique expression of your soul on earth. So I really like that for you. And especially if there's anything in particular that you're not clear on or that you're looking for answers on, it's recognizing that that is all within you. That's something that you already have access to. So it's like, even if you believe in spirit guides and angels, of course, like we can receive support, but that support isn't coming from outside of you. You're receiving support and connecting to what you already have access to through your heart, right? And it's about, allowing yourself to kind of be a vehicle for change, a vehicle for that energy to manifest into the physical world, and that's a part of your purpose, and that it may be on a large or small scale. It might be solely for your own benefit from what you can see, but there's no limit in terms of how that energy can be expressed and how that might impact others. Even if you're creating art, your art may change somebody's life, right? Your art may set an example for somebody. So it's like, it's just important to align with whatever that is and to feel confident in not only doing that or continuing to do that, but trusting yourself to acknowledge what that might look like, how that might change, what that kind of highest expression is. So it's kind of like you've got all the answers, you have the ability to connect with the resources that you need, and it's just important for you to recognize that, connect to it, and take action on it. And then the other interesting thing is with you got the love. I don't know much about this Hadarian energy. This is the Starseed Oracle, so it is kind of gives me the impression that the Hadarians are probably a specific group of starseeds. If you believe in starseeds, if you're interested, I highly encourage you to do some research and see what you're drawn to, what you come across, what that might, how that might resonate with you. You know, that might be a very personal thing for you. But yeah, the highlight here is codependency, right? Boundaries. This all comes down to self-love, and being willing to know and see yourself in an authentic way instead of looking to your external environment and your relationships to give you a sense of identity or give you a sense of meaning or love or joy or fulfillment. So it kind of seems like you guys might be on a little bit of a journey inward, a little journey of self-reflection, self-love, learning how to connect with and value yourselves, to feed into yourselves first and foremost, and then being able to channel that into your relationships and your dealings with others. So yeah, I would say like be aware of anything that you feel lacking, any holes that you're trying to fill, anything that you're really kind of focused on or preoccupied in terms of things being outside of yourself. So it could be within family, friendships, working relationships, romantic relationships, especially codependency is very much highlighted. So this is the sense of like people needing other people to make them happy, or you need to get into a relationship to fulfill some kind of desire or some kind of need that otherwise cannot be fulfilled. And it's recognizing that that's kind of like a wounded behavior, and feeling empowered to realize that anything and everything that you want or need is something that you can consciously make the decision to connect with, experience, express gratitude for, cultivate on your own, right? Like, so you don't need anything or anyone from outside of you to fulfill that. It's about learning how to do it for yourself, learning how to fill up your own cup and to come into recognition and acceptance of your wholeness as a person. So that means being able to accept like our shadow and our light, right? The duality, and not just to value and celebrate the sides of ourselves that look good or sound good or that meet, general expectations, but also to recognize and own, maybe the less desirable parts of ourselves, maybe the parts of ourselves that it's like, generational trauma or wounds, things that we've learned and that we're carrying that aren't ours, or wounds that we're carrying from relationships or certain experiences that we've had in the past, and recognizing that that is just as much a beautiful part of ourselves and our history and our plan, our soul's journey through this world, as the most beautiful expression of that energy and our love and joy and all the goodness that we have to give the world. So it's recognizing that we can't have one without the other. We are going to experience that duality no matter what. And the more that we have to define and judge things as being like positive or negative, desirable or undesirable, the more that we try to lean into one and resist or deny the other, the more that just kind of throws us off balance, and it kind of only increases this tendency to be codependent and to have no boundaries. So it's about coming into that acceptance. And when you learn to start loving and accepting yourself as you are, even the parts that are difficult to love, you are modeling a great example and showing other people how to love you. And in turn, the more that you're able to come into that level of acceptance of yourself for yourself, the easier it is to extend that love and kindness, compassion, like unconditional love or acceptance to other people, even people that maybe you don't like, right? So it's kind of like it starts with you, and doing that work for yourself is going to be highly kind of rewarding for you, because it seems like this is a good month for you to make strides. So I think that even taking action in that direction over the course of the month might have the opportunity or the potential to kind of like transform your experience a little bit, or it might be a little easier, or it might be a major challenge. But this energy is highlighted for you this month, however that makes sense to you. And you may find yourself in a position where you need to start being more conscious about setting boundaries. So do an energetic check-in with yourself and with all of your relationships, and say, like, is there a relationship that I'm relying on? Like, is there a relationship that I feel like I need, or that I need for a specific purpose? Like, there's validation that I need, or support that I need, or I need somebody's company in order to feel okay, right? So it's like, are you relying on any kind of relationship to fulfill a need, or to fill a void, or to kind of distract you from something that maybe you're not fully accepting of yourself, to make you feel better about the part? Because it's like, we need support and love, but we can't be dependent on people or things outside of us to do that for us. So it's doing that check-in, also doing a check-in to see, are there any relationships that I have that are feeling heavy, that have me feeling like stressed or anxious, that make me feel unsafe, where I don't know where I stand, I'm walking on eggshells, I can't be my authentic self. Maybe I'm afraid to expose the more vulnerable aspects of myself because I think that I'm likely to be rejected, or, so it's like taking that moment to check in with yourself and recognizing that you may be participating in relationships that are not necessarily healthy because you're trying to receive something that you're not prepared to give yourself, which may be perpetuating any struggles that you have. Or you may be showing up in perfectly healthy, beneficial relationships in a codependent manner, or in a manner where you're not necessarily protecting your energies and taking ownership of your happiness and your health, and encouraging the other person to do the same. So it's like two people being accountable, taking responsibility for their growth and healing, setting boundaries, respecting each other, and being able to work together as two wholes, and to enjoy life and experiences together as two whole people, instead of, looking for one person to give and the other person to receive, to the point of being depleted in one way or another. So yeah, it's about checking in with your relationship, seeing if there's anything you're trying to get from outside of yourself. How might you identify ways that you can connect with that energy for yourself? What boundaries do you need to set? And the other thing is too, that like, when we think about codependency, a lot of people think about it as a damaged behavior. And of course it can come from, wounds in our past, generational wounds, and even just like most of the romantic relationships that are modeled for us in like media and like movies and books, it is intensely codependent, and nobody tells us how codependent it is. It's modeled for us like, oh, this is a dream relationship where you find this person that's just perfect, and they do everything perfectly, and they cater to your every need so that you don't have to be a healthy, happy, functioning individual on your own. Like, they're supposed to do it for you, and you're supposed to do it for them. And then you've got two people that, even if they're well-intended and they're consciously trying to have a healthy relationship, they're not tending to their own well, they're not filling their own cup. They're exhausting themselves trying to make the other person happy. And inevitably, each person feels depleted and worn down. They feel their needs are not being met. They don't have the ability to continue caring. And they also feel disconnected from their partner because they're not in a position to receive. So it's a really challenging dynamic. But yeah, a lot of the time we think about it as a really unattractive, undesirable, awfully wounded behavior. And the fact is that, it's not like that. Like, generally people are codependent because they just want love. They want to connect with love. They want to share love. They want to experience love. And this is just like, it's just a not so effective way to express and experience and connect with love. It's like a wounded way of doing it, right? It's like it's a way that we've been taught that doesn't necessarily have our best interests at heart, right? And so it's recognizing that you may be struggling with codependency and setting boundaries in relationship because you are an unconditionally loving person. Maybe you do have a lot of love to give, and maybe you are so flexible and so understanding of people that you're just constantly seeing the best, right? So maybe you're not responding to challenging or toxic behavior in a way that protects your energy and your boundaries, because you're able to see beyond that and you're able to extend unconditional love to that person, unconditional understanding. And because you want that back, you put yourself in a position potentially to be hurt or taken advantage of, because you're not setting boundaries, you're not protecting your energy, you're not standing up for yourself. So it's like you may be coming from a place of love and being able to give love, but you might be trapping yourself in codependent dynamics where you're not necessarily getting that back, but also you're not being mindful of your energy and your needs. So you could be engaging with people that would totally take advantage of you because you're kind of like love and light. I can get past anything. But the individual on the other side of the relationship is maybe not in that space. So it's recognizing the most loving and respectful thing that we can do for ourselves and for others is to take responsibility for our own stuff and to set boundaries. So there's certain things that maybe we won't tolerate. Maybe there are deal breakers. Maybe there are things that are really negative for us to experience or really unhelpful or really triggering. And we have to kind of say like, this is the type of behavior that I'm not going to be able to tolerate because at this point in my journey, it's just setting me back, right? So it can be really difficult to set boundaries, particularly if you haven't had that modeled for you, but it's recognizing that it's all about loving and respecting yourself and knowing that sometimes we have to have those uncomfortable conversations. Sometimes we have to disconnect ourselves from relationships that we intensely want because they're not healthy for us, or because the other individual that we're contending with perhaps isn't in a place to connect on a more loving and empowered level. So it's like you kind of have to do you have to do what's right for you. So yeah, that might be something that you're aware of, or perhaps not. It may be a struggle that's been ongoing, but it's very much highlighted this month. So anywhere that you're struggling in your relationships, anywhere that you're like kind of tempted to look outside of yourself, you feel an intense need or longing for a person or a certain thing, it's recognizing that that's just something unhealed within you that's calling your attention. It's a little area where maybe you need a little bit more of your own love and awareness and compassion and acceptance. And it's kind of like there are so many facets to your personality, and it's about just being able to acknowledge and love all of them and bring them into wholeness, right? And accept that that is part of your whole nature. And that each and every one of us has our individual things that we need to work on, and our boundaries are going to look different. And also boundaries will change and grow over time as we change and grow, and even as relationships kind of progress. So, yeah, it's recognizing that like we can find ourselves being stuck in codependent dynamics or expressing codependent tendencies even when we're trying to heal, because we're just trying to connect with love so much. So yeah, just be mindful of however that makes sense for you. But this might be a good month to start addressing that and healing it. So your first card this month is the Empress. Got a bunch of cards that are like close to flipping over, but not quite. You've got two that have come out for your next placement. So we've got Temperance and the Three of Cups for your second placement. Your third placement or third card is the Queen of Wands. We'll get you one more. Oops. Okay, and then we've got the Knight of Wands as your final card. And at the bottom of the deck, we have King of Cups, who just so happens to be in reverse. Yeah, so that one, I don't normally read reversals, but because that's where he's at, we're going to leave him there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clarify all these cards, and then we'll read them all as one. So we've got the Empress is clarified by the Ace of Wands. Just for the sake of like, because you've already got a lot going on, I'm not going to clarify both of these cards since it's for the second position that I'm reading for. I'll just get one card to clarify these both together. So Temperance and the Three of Cups is actually clarified by Temperance. So there you go. No coincidences there. It's going to be a month of balancing some stuff out for you, yourself, Virgo. So Queen of Wands is clarified by the Eight of Cups, which I really like. And finally, we will clarify the Knight of Wands. Ooh, Knight of Wands is clarified by the Two of Swords, which I'm liking these combinations that we've got here. Okay, and at the bottom of the deck, we have the Six of Pentacles. Okay, so let's take a look at just everything that's going on here. So it's interesting. We've got a lot of Wands energy. So that, yeah, a lot of like passion, creativity, inspiration. And it kind of looks like that might be your ticket to navigating, dealing with, overcoming whatever it is you're finding to be a struggle, which could very well be emotional in nature. Because at the bottom of the deck, we've got the King of Cups in reverse and the Six of Pentacles. So this could be relating to a struggle in terms of either connecting to your emotions, acknowledging and experiencing your emotions, either allowing them to flow through you and being able to connect with that kind of inner wisdom that comes along with that awareness of, you know, your senses, your emotional body, your intuition, the things that kind of go on in your subconscious. So there might be some kind of block or resistance to connecting to that side of yourself, being able to rest in quiet awareness, to allow those emotions to pass through and to recognize what they are, to express them, and to maybe go a little bit deeper in terms of what they're connected to, whether they be beliefs, experiences, you know, wounds, and kind of seeing like what is coming up to be recognized to help you kind of come to a deeper level of understanding of yourself and to have access to that inner. This is also part of your like you being the oracle. It's like we have to be able to sit still and to trust ourselves to calmly navigate those emotions and to ascertain what they're trying to tell us in order to gain that wisdom and be able to kind of integrate that knowledge and move forward in a direction that's going to be more centered. And this is connected to like a material abundance, right? So this is like the idea of being able to reap the rewards of your labor. So that could be like, that could be a paycheck, that could be more financial stability, it could be stability in the home, like a home or a career, it could be family. So it's basically any way that like abundance would show up in the material world, however that makes sense to you. So it even could be being able to connect with love and joy and appreciate the abundance that you've got, especially if you're motivated by like material gain and moving forward in your career and gaining more stability, and kind of like leveling up in that sense. It could be that you were resisting your emotions because you're focused on like making bank. But because you're not connected to your emotions, or maybe there are some blocks there, it might be preventing you from actually being able to really connect with and access gratitude, to be moved by the abundance that's around you and to be able to actually fully enjoy it. So I don't know, however that might apply to you. That's the energy that's kind of underlying this and influencing this progression. So it might be something that you've been contending with. So you're being encouraged to come into this month basically like embracing your creativity, but your creative power. So this is like the ultimate creator, the ultimate manifestor, like the not manifestor, because there's more manifestation centered cards in the tarot, but this is more about your ability to bring something new into reality, your ability to take an idea or a creative concept and to nurture it, to take action on it, to incubate it, and to eventually bring it into the world. So this is like the physical, tangible application of this energy, right? You being the oracle, you being able to connect to wisdom and inspiration and creative power from the world of the unseen, to be inspired by that and to take action in the world in a way that creates something that is basically the physical expression of that loving energy. And so it's like whatever you're creating, whatever you're building, it could be actually like a family. It could be something that you're physically building, something that you create through art. It's like however you kind of channel that creative energy and bring it into the world, whatever you're focusing on and whatever you're focusing on physically manifesting for yourself. It's recognizing that we have to kind of take time to connect with ourselves and to connect to our intuition and to be aware of what is going on in our internal world in order to be able to access this well of inner wisdom and this knowledge and this creative power. So it's kind of like you have to not only nurture your projects, but you also have to, and whatever you're manifesting or working on, but you also have to nurture yourself, right? And take time to connect with yourself. Take time for those things that are kind of brewing in your subconscious that, you know, motivate you that you may not be aware of, and kind of allowing those to come to light, allowing yourself to discover new parts of yourself. Because the more connected you are to yourself, the more empowered you are, the more you're able to channel your energy into whatever that creative outlet is, you know? And it's like trusting your ability. It's a very nurturing energy, trusting your ability to bring things into existence. And for that to come up with the Ace of Wands, it's very much directly related to whatever you're most passionate about, because the Ace of Wands is an opportunity for connection to your passion and inspiration, and you know, perhaps a new hobby, a new venture, a new project, or even a new take on a manner in which you're already connected to something that you're passionate about. But yeah, so there's the opportunity for you to connect with it. There's the opportunity for you to experience something different, to be changed by it, and to kind of, it's almost like setting out on a new path, right? So it's like, so it may be related to career. Maybe you're still in the same career, but maybe you're taking that career in a new direction. Maybe you have a new concept or a new idea that has sparked a little light in you that you have been thinking about taking action on. So if there is something, if there is a new spark, if there is a new idea, if there is, or even a new outlet for that passion or creativity that you've been thinking about, then I think it's, you know, highly recommended that you take some time to connect with that further and think about what the application might look like, and how you can take action in some, you know, grounded, tangible ways to start expressing that energy, allowing that energy to move you, and see what direction that might take you in and what you might be able to create. Like whatever that creative energy is, it's very much highlighted. So connecting with that, making room for that, nurturing that within yourself, and also nurturing if this could already be something that you've got in action. So whatever that is, it's like nurturing that, believing in that, connecting with that, and allowing your inspiration to stay ignited and to keep carrying you, right? So it's like you've got this new opportunity, this new path to go on, which is amazing. And so your challenge is coming up this month is like, first and foremost, balance. Right? So this could be balancing out whatever you enjoy, whatever you feel like is the most desirable about you, whatever comes easily to you, or like that you prefer to focus on, and then maybe the things that like you don't like so much, the things that you don't like about yourself, the things that you try to keep hidden or perhaps avoid. So it could be an internal kind of energy. It could also be the external expression of like the taking action on only the things you like versus the things that you don't enjoy doing. This can also be balance in terms of like our inner world, our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our connection to our intuition, being able to channel that creative energy and that connect with that inner wisdom versus living a strictly material life, like strictly practical, very much focused on money and material goods, and maybe neglecting the inner world and the self-care. And it's recognizing that, both of those things are important. They're both valid. They both need attention and action. And we cannot sacrifice one for the other, because ultimately, everything wants to come back into balance. And so we will end up creating, if we get out of balance, we'll end up creating a situation that, inevitably, whether it becomes more difficult or not, we will have to acknowledge what is out of balance and kind of move back in the other direction, right? So everything, what comes around goes around. Everything is interconnected. Whatever you're focusing on and taking action on right now is ultimately going to come back to you. And that's why it's important to find that balance for yourself, to find your sweet spot in terms of making sure you're taking care of, your cup is full, you're connecting to your passion and inspiration, and also, your material needs are met, you've got that stability and abundance, and you're moving toward those goals as well, that you're not sacrificing one for the other. And it's all about, that's part of what's necessary in terms of this like self-love and healing codependence and setting boundaries, is keeping yourself in balance and recognizing that you have the power to, like, the power is within you, and everything that you need is within you. And it's a matter of keeping all of these kinds of facets and aspects of yourself in balance, but being able to accept that you can't live without either. And that it's easy to kind of focus on the good and try to avoid the bad, or what we perceive as bad. But even just finding it necessary to judge ourselves or others under this positive or negative makes it a lot more difficult for us to come into acceptance of the fact that no matter what, we're going to have light and shadow. And I think it's a lot easier to keep the light and dark in balance when we just accept that that's part of our nature, and that there's no shame in just being human and being imperfect, right? Because we're not here to be perfect. We are here to find our balance. And so if that's something that you've been struggling with, this is particularly highlighted in connection to other people. So it could be relationships, it could be how you show up in relationship to other people, how you show up in communities, how you participate in groups. And this is about like finding happiness and celebration and harmony and, depth of connection with other individuals within a community. So yeah, you might potentially any struggle for balance that you have on a personal level, any of the ways that you might judge or limit yourself based on things that you perceive to be undesirable, may impact your ability to really become a part of and influence and enjoy the benefits of connecting to groups of individuals, however that make sense to you. So it could be a group of friends, it could be family, it could be soul family, it could be people who have common interests, people that you work with. It could be like your ethnic background, like however that makes sense for you. But it's like bringing yourself into balance is going to help you connect with more harmony. So if you're experiencing disharmony in terms of relationships to other people, friend groups, connecting with and being able to integrate with other groups. And when I say integrate, like with groups of people, I don't mean to like camouflage and fit in, but I mean to be your own authentic self, to find your role, to find your space, and to show up as you are. But that's kind of only possible when you kind of find that true north, that happy balance for yourself, and you love and accept yourself. Because if you show up in a group, especially a group of people that are balanced and self-aware, any kind of way that your energy is off, any issues that you have with yourself ultimately are going to be reflected in your interactions with that group. They're going to be able to sense it. We often project our issues and our qualities onto other people. We are triggered by other people because they are mirrors for us. So it's kind of like, this might be difficult for you. Balance might feel difficult, just like, especially if you're really busy. There might be certain aspects of your life that are very important to your health and happiness that are being put on the back burner or perhaps not prioritized. And so it's kind of like, it's kind of finding what you need to do to ensure that your needs are met and that you're going to be able to sustain your forward movement, and in a personal level and on a professional level or in a social sense. So yeah, you might end up having some issues. Perhaps like you don't have a lot of fun and happiness and love and connection and celebration with people, or, you know, maybe it's very limited, and maybe that's related to codependence. Maybe you're codependent and you're relying on your partner to kind of fulfill all of your needs and not necessarily doing the work to get into a space of authentic self-expression and acceptance so that you can connect more readily and become a part of like a group, a culture, I guess. So yeah, that might be the way that challenge is manifesting for you this month. So you are being encouraged in order to kind of overcome and navigate that, navigate that challenge, is to connect with your spark. So this Queen of Wands is a very kind of like refined, mature energy. So, you know, she has the confidence in her ability to know that, you know, she doesn't need to look outside of herself. She's not questioning herself. She's not getting caught up in fear and anxiety. She's focused on what she has to offer. She's focused on this spark, this opportunity, this thing that is going to be ultimately like some kind of passionate, inspired, creative expression. And the way that she's taking action in the world that kind of shares that light, shares her light with the world. And, you know, she's not concerned with anything or anyone outside of herself. She knows that she's got the power. She's focused on it. And she's not only focused on it, but she's experiencing joy from it. Like, you know, she's joyful, she's confident, she's charismatic. She's not worried about what anyone else thinks. And she's ready to kind of take action in expressing this energy, right? So it's not something that can be taken from her. It's not something that can be dimmed unless she decides to. And this is also a very kind of like passive energy. So it's not about being aggressive and taking action, making moves, you know, impacting other people. This is more a more nurturing energy. So she's nurturing this flame. She knows that it's there, but she's not shoving it in anyone's face. She doesn't need to prove it to anyone, and she doesn't necessarily need to take action to show everyone what she's got, because she's too busy celebrating it for herself. She's too busy allowing herself to connect with and be moved by that. And I think that energy, nurturing that spark, feeling good about that spark, taking care of herself first, is what's going to help, you know, the more practical, tangible application of bringing that energy into the world around her and ultimately impacting other people, right? And so it's kind of like connecting to that energy, knowing that it's within you, and with it being related to, like, clarified by the Eight of Cups, this is about not allowing situations that it could have been disappointing, could have been hurtful, might have been a loss, might have been something that promised or had promise in terms of being something really fulfilling, something that might have the opportunity to make you feel very happy and fulfilled, like in love, an opportunity for like emotional connection and depth. So it's recognizing that sometimes we have opportunities to connect with things that seem hopeful, and sometimes they do pan out and they do work out for us, but they're not meant to be the be all end all. They're not, it's kind of like a stepping stone on the direction to like love and happiness, but it's not the be all end all. And so sometimes the things that we thought that were going to make us happy don't. Sometimes they do, but only for a short period of time. And for example, like a relationship, and then two people change and outgrow each other, and the relationship is not helpful and it needs to end. So it's being able to acknowledge that those previous experiences, although it can be easy to kind of focus on hurt or pain or loss, or, you know, the disappointment of something not working, or having to let go of something that once did work that is no longer working. So this is like an emotional release. and kind of forgiving those past experiences and not fixating on them, right? Because it's like these cups are broken. You know, they're not viable vessels. They're not going to contain the love and the joy and the happiness and the depth of connection that you're looking for. So there's no sense focusing on them because they can't be prepared. And so it's being able to come to terms with whatever that is and whatever challenging emotions you may have as a result of that, because this is kind of a dark energy, and recognizing that although all these cups are broken, yeah, you can commit yourself to focusing on those broken cups and you can stay in that place that feels dark and hopeless. But the fact is, it's like there's light over these mountains. So it might be a bit of a journey, and you have to kind of be willing to walk away from whatever this is. So I would say it's most important to take the lesson, right? So even if it was a disappointing or hurtful situation, it's about being willing to take the lesson and move forward with that and do better for yourself. Instead of relegating yourself to be bound to or limited by the past. So yeah, it can be a very past focused energy, and there might be healing from your past that you need to come to terms with in order to really allow yourself the opportunity to connect with more opportunities for love and fulfillment. Because the thing is, the next card is the Nine of Cups, which is the wish card. So it's like, if you could have anything, what does that love and happiness look like, right? And so sometimes, especially if we're kind of in a codependent state, or we're not really fully loving and accepting ourselves, so we're looking to the external world or other people to fill that hole and to make us feel loved. Sometimes we're not in a position to make a wish, right? Because that wish is going to be for more of that external validation as opposed to our inner healing and self-acceptance. So it's kind of like being willing to let go of those hurtful things and to focus on what you do have, and to kind of fan your own flames, come more into self-love. And then you have the opportunity to connect with whatever that ultimate wish is going to look like. And it's probably going to come from a more loving and centered place. And the thing that I love the most is that the highest possible outcome for this month really, really has to do with stepping unabashedly and in an unashamed energy into self-expression. So it's like this flame that she's holding, that's her power, that's her creativity, that's her passion. That is something that is unique to her, that she gets to be inspired by, that gets to inspire her thoughts and her forward movement, and that she gets to infuse into the physical world, and she gets to share with other people. But it's hers first and foremost, right? This is allowing that to drive you, valuing that, encouraging that. And it's kind of like dancing to the beat of your own drum. So it's recognizing like, yeah, you have something that's uniquely yours. And the more that you connect with that, and the more that you allow that to move you in really organic ways, and that you allow yourself to get lost in the joy of that creativity, that creative expression, that outlet, the more that flame is going to grow, you know? So this is about kind of like embracing your wildness, embracing your passion, and like, yeah, singing, dancing, not being afraid of how you're going to be perceived, not being afraid of what other people think or what other people are doing, but acknowledging like, this is me, this is what makes me feel free, this is how I want to express myself. So it's like, without fear, connecting with this joyous energy. And this is like the joy of creation, getting into that flow and doing it for the sake of enjoyment. So you're not doing it to have a certain outcome, or to influence people, or to make money, or to paint yourself in a certain light. You're doing it just for the sake of doing it. You're doing it because you love it, because you're passionate about it, because it is a skill or a gift that you've been given. And connecting with that brings you further into, you know, connection to and acceptance of yourself, right? So it's just this very like inspired, free-spirited energy. And so it's kind of like claiming your stake, right? And not playing small, and trusting that, yeah, that might put some people off, because you're not going to do it in some kind of pompous, egotistical way. It's like this is about like, you know, a high vibrational expression of this creative energy. But it's trusting like, yeah, okay, some people might not align with it. Some people might be put off with it. Sure, some people might judge you because you're friggin' doing your own thing, right? But the fact is, those people don't matter, because if they're in that space, they're not meant to be in your area. They're not meant to be part of this journey with you. And that by shining this light and owning it, you are going to be a beacon for the people who are on that same level or who are looking to collaborate with that kind of energy. And that's just going to open up a world of possibilities that are going to be more beneficial and aligned for you. And the beautiful thing too is with it being clarified by the Two of Swords, this is about having a decision to make. So especially if there is a decision that you have to make in terms of what direction you're going to go in personally, in your relationship, in your work, in your hobbies, your creative expression, it's kind of like coming to the point where you're going to have more clarity on what's right for you, on what decision you need to make, on what direction you need to go in. Because the thing with the Two of Swords is it can be like acknowledging that a decision needs to be made, but avoiding it, right? Because you feel like you don't have the clarity or the information needed in order to make the right decision. And then it can kind of spawn into like anxiety, overthinking, overanalysis, and that just paralyzes you and brings you further into doubt. And so the interesting thing is it's almost like the whole point of the Two of Swords is you're never going to have the exact clarity that you need, right? Because usually it's somebody who's blindfolded. And so it's like you can't see what direction to go in, right? So you have to either drop one of the swords in order to remove your blindfold, which essentially has you making a decision because whatever sword you've got is the one you're left with. But even so, it's like it's not a decision that's meant to be made in that manner. It's like you kind of have to feel your way through it. You have to connect with your intuition. You have to trust yourself to choose a path, choose a direction, and know that in choosing it and committing to it, that is the right path for you. There's no wrong decision really, but also that you're going to have the experiences that you need, and that clarity will kind of come as you move along the path. So you can't wait for clarity necessarily, or like when I say clarity, like you can't wait to know the exact outcome and everything that's going to happen before you make the decision, because that clarity and that awareness comes and things fall into place once you commit to a certain path. And so the beautiful thing is it's like, this can also be the decision of like making a decision about following your heart and your inspiration and just kind of embracing that authentic energy and living from that space. And so getting more into this energy, this Queen of Wands energy, is going to help you channel that into some forward movement and taking more action for yourself. And like connecting with more people, having more confidence, more charisma. This is even like a more social energy, but it could very well be in coming into and embracing this energy, you get the inner clarity that you need and connecting with your own inner wisdom so that you know what path is right for you. If you stay on the path that is laid out for you, that's easy, that you don't have to think about, or if you take that friggin' sword and you start forging your own path, like bushwhacking with a machete, right? So I think that's really awesome. It's a pretty empowering message. So seems like you guys have a lot to work with. But yes, it definitely stems from like your self-love and acceptance first and foremost. That's going to be the biggest thing, because whatever this creative outlet or venture or expression is like, it's a big part of your life. And it's like, you might be expressing it currently, but in a small way. And so it's like really fully stepping into it, owning all parts of it, and allowing it to have a bigger presence and a bigger role in your life, instead of trying to pick and choose how that creative energy is going to be expressed. So your affirmations, your first is, I choose to reinterpret my fears with a more loving perspective. So it's acknowledging that anytime you come into fear, that can obviously spawn anxiety and overthinking, overanalysis, which isn't necessarily true or healthy or helpful. And it's recognizing that you always have the opportunity to kind of change your mind and to connect with something that is going to be more aligned to what you're trying to create, something that's going to be more empowering, and that power is yours. It just takes a level of awareness of what you're experiencing and what might not be helpful, so you can kind of interrupt whatever low vibrational energy is going on and try to kind of adjust it to something that's going to be more helpful to you. And then I trust that my gut reaction is the truth underneath the surface of my fears. So that's also like this King of Cups, right? Trusting your ability to interpret your intuitive nudges, that gut reaction, and that you don't have to explain it away. You don't have to rationalize it. You're not necessarily going to find evidence in the external world of that being correct, but that is something that is deeply within you that you kind of have to embrace and trust, so that you don't kind of give your power away to fear or anything outside of yourself. So just like love, we don't want to look for love and satisfaction and happiness and fulfillment outside of ourselves. We also don't want to succumb to like fear and anxiety and those kind of like less helpful energies that are coming from outside of us either, right? So it's like claiming your power. And your final oracle is time to go. So I'm just going to read that directly from the book and see if that might give us some additional insight to tie the reading together. Okay, so it's card number 45. Okay. So, essential meanings: endings, completion, walking away from something because there is nothing else to learn or experience. So that's very much this Eight of Cups energy. It's like leaving what's no longer serving you, what's broken, what's no longer working, even if it's painful, because clearing that energy out and stepping away from it allows you to open up to new opportunities, new possibilities. So the Oracle's message: you are at the end of one journey and have not yet begun the next. This is a moment to bless your experience thus far. Take stock of what you've learned. It's time to move on to new experiences and a new way of being. There is nothing left for you to do, be, or experience in your present circumstances. Take the risk and move on, even if you need to be in transition for a time. Your destiny is calling you. A relationship message says it's over, or at the very least, the form this relationship has taken is no longer of service to you or the other person. This is a time of letting go, of knowing that the journey has come to its conclusion. That doesn't mean anything is lost. Although this card could speak to a breakup, drifting apart, or the end of a soul contract, it is more about release than destruction. Remember the saying: if you love something, let it go. If it comes back, it's yours. If not, it never was. Endings are always a sign of new beginnings. If you want something deeper, walk away. And prosperity message: this message is clear. The path you've been on with your work, creative projects, and business alliances have come to an end. You will not find the success you desire by continuing with what is now in front of you. This is an auspicious sign because there is no choice that will benefit you other than risking stepping into the unknown. It is time to walk towards something new. This card also pertains to the more neutral concept of completion. You've finished your tasks and can rest assured that this ending will open up a powerful new avenue of opportunity, even better than any you can imagine. You have done all you can. Now trust that Spirit keeps the plan moving forward. Fortune requires you to conclude this chapter of your life, and remember that when you close one door, another opens. So even if something like related to your creative outlet or your work, like there is a partnership that has come to conclusion, or perhaps a project that has come to completion, it's acknowledging you can't tie your energy up there anymore to kind of open up to next steps, right? New projects, new collaborations. And then protection message: even if it appears that you've reached the end of the line and all is lost, it isn't. You're in a situation that will resurface again later, so consider this a break rather than an ending. Destiny is in charge here. You lose nothing and gain everything when you surrender to that fact. Your soul knows that your destiny is unfolding with perfect timing and synchronicity. Your small self has doubts, but that's natural, as it doesn't have the map of your destiny. The soul does. Spirit loves you. Trust that. Yeah, so wherever you're at, whatever you're dealing with, it's all kind of happening for your highest good. And I think the best thing that you can do is just focus on connecting to your passion and inspiration, continuing to be moved by that and sharing that, but also like really turning inwards, giving yourself that love and time and attention, valuing yourself, filling your cup first, setting boundaries in terms of your time and energy, and making sure that you're doing the work to kind of find ways to love and complete yourself so that you can share yourself in your wholeness with the people around you, either through your craft, through your hobbies, through your relationships, and so that you can start bringing in healthier dynamics, participating and becoming part of healthier groups and communities, and having healthier and more balanced relationships where there's the opportunity for collaboration in a fair and equitable way, and nobody is overextending or depleting themselves or expecting to be catered to. Yeah, there's the opportunity for a lot of that to be healed. So it's big energy, Virgo, but it feels really good. So I'm excited for you guys. I'm going to leave your reading there. If you did enjoy this reading, the best and easiest way to support me is by liking this video on YouTube, leaving a comment. Beyond that, if there's anyone you feel might be interested in or benefit by my readings, you can feel free to share my content with them. Don't forget to hop on over to my channel at Bright Soul Collective Tarot and take a look at my other videos. And make sure that you've not only hit subscribe to my channel, but sign up for notifications so that you can stay up to date on new videos as they're posted. So yeah, it was an absolute pleasure reading for you, Virgo. This looks really awesome for you guys. I hope this month it treats you well. It's always a pleasure to read for you. I'm looking forward to seeing what next month has in store. But in the meantime, I'm wishing you all the very best.